Once upon a time, there were two lads who loved a natter.
But there was a summer hiatus which could only be broken by the purest podcast.
They were locked away in a kitchen guarded by a terrible, fire-breathing Steve McLaren.
Many devoted listeners had attempted to free them from this dreadful prison, but none had prevailed.
They waited in McLaren's keep in the highest cabinet of the largest kitchen to once again produce the perfect podcast.
Suddenly, the door of the cupboard burst open. It was a man with a familiar voice.
Sean Dyche, manager of Burnley.
They were saved.
They leapt out and screamed at the top of their lungs 5 simple words. This is the Football Natter!
We've finally escaped that cupboard, Harry. We are back. Welcome, one and all, to a new season, to a new dawn, to a new series of the Football Natter. Now, of course, the Premier League may not start this week, but football is certainly back this weekend with the Football League. So, Harry, what are we going to talk to you, beautiful listeners, about this week?
Well, we're going to give our full championship preview for the upcoming season. We're going to touch a little bit on League 1 and League 2. And we're going to round it off with a few transfers and our previews for the biggest championship games.
So, Harry, we're starting with the championship. And what a better place to start than with the 3 teams who were relegated last season. So, into the championship go Fulham, Cardiff and Huddersfield. And, well, let's start off with what you think their chances are this season. Who do you think is going to adjust back to championship life perfectly and make another go for the Premier League? Who do you think, isn't probably going to do the best and is going to kind of have a consolidatory season? And who do you think, could there be a relegation surprise in there? We've seen it before with Sunderland, teams like Portsmouth and Blackpool. Teams soon can, slip down the leagues. Is there a chance of that this season?
Well, I don't think we're going to see another Sunderland out of any of these 3 teams. But I do think that Fulham are going to bounce right back into the Premier League. And that's because they've kept a lot of the players who were successful last season. We were talking earlier about Tom Kearney. He was very good for the championship, and I think he'll continue that. And their front 3 is frankly far too good. Ivan Cavallero, good player for Wolves, didn't really get to show his full potential last season, but we know that in the championship he will tear it up. Mitrovic, his actions speak for themselves. In the championship, he is one of the best strikers they've had in the past few seasons. And even in the Premier League, he's still scoring goals, and I think he's going to be successful. And Anthony Knockart, we all know what he can do. He was key when Brighton got promoted a few seasons back. And in the Premier League, he was still showing his quality. And when you were watching him in like the FA Cup or the League Cup, he was showing his quality. And I think that front 3 is going to propel them to success. Obviously, the defence was the issue. Players like O'Doy at the back, rubbish, useless. But I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to adjust to the championship because it was a similar defence as it's going to be like Le Marchand. And I think players like that are going to adapt a bit more. It's going to be more their level, if you get what I mean. Cardiff, I don't know. I don't know about promotion because there is so much competition. You see there are teams like Leeds, for example, or West Brom. There are teams like that who will definitely want to go right up and they're going to be competing. But they've, again, kept on to some good players. So it'll be interesting to see for Cardiff. And Huddersfield, I think they're going to go back to regularity. They've still got some of their best players like Aaron Moy, for example. You see they've got Mbenza on a permanent now. We'll have to see if he is a little bit better for Championship football than Premier League. But it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, they lost Billing to Bournemouth, and he was quite a big physical presence in that midfield. So Huddersfield are going to be an interesting team. They've got some good players. Obviously, their style of play was not good enough last season as well. They got humiliated. But I think Jan Sijver will actually do pretty well for them. We could see them possibly going for playoff places, but it will be interesting to see.
Well, I've seen quite a few predictions, and I probably agree with them, and I agree with you. I think Fulham are the best bet to go straight back up, and I think you're right. I think they could very well get first place. I mean, there is going to be competition. I think going into this season, Leeds are going to be particularly hungry, keen on making sure that they don't bottle it once again. I mean, of course, we know that's what Leeds are famous for, bottling it. And, it's no surprise that at the end of last season, when Sheffield United looked certain to possibly slip up, Leeds made sure they got promoted. And, we all look forward to seeing Sheffield United in the Premier League. And make sure you tune in next week to hear our thoughts on their upcoming season. It's a big season for them, big season for Chris Wilder, who has turned that club around in a matter of seasons. But anyway, back into the Championship. Fulham, I think, you talked about their defence there. I think players like Alfie Mawson are perfect for the Championship. I think they're not... The Premier League's very physical, and I think Alfie Mawson isn't adapted in terms of, he's 24, 25, something like that. I think he wasn't. I think maybe he was thrown in too much. And when you've got players like Adoy or Ream to kind of back you up, it's not really going to give you confidence as a defender, and particularly as a defender in the Premier League, you need confidence to be able to play the way that the manager wants. And I think Scott Parker for them, in terms of managing them, I think he's going to be very good. First season as manager, I think we saw how well Frank Lampard adapted with Derby County in the Championship. I think the Championship for a new manager is a great league to manage in. It's not necessarily the most tactically tough, but it's still great fun to watch. It's fast paced, it's competitive, and it's exactly what you want when you go into management. So it's a good league to start out in, and Scott Parker, he's going to do well. I think Fulham very well could be league champions and possibly run away with the league. We will see. Cardiff, I think you're right. I think Cardiff are going to be a bit like what Stoke City were when they went down. Probably a bit harsh on them going down because, if Cardiff had played in the Premier League this season with VAR, their season could have been one hell of a different season. They could well have stayed up on the last day. So I think Cardiff are going to be a bit like Stoke. They'll come down, and this season I think they'll hover around mid-table, which, in terms of, I think Huddersfield will do the same. I think Huddersfield and Cardiff this season are, they were never tipped to go up. Cardiff was, a team which was never tipped to go up at the start of the season that they did, and nor were Huddersfield. Huddersfield have just got a dedicated fan base. Their owners have really managed how they use the fans to their advantage well, and I think the momentum that the fans gave them really helped them, and I think once Huddersfield got on a winning run, they couldn't stop, and that playoff final was incredible for them, and they went up. And so I can't see that happening again, I think, because I just don't think the investment's there. Let's not forget that Fulham spent £100 million. Now, although quite a few of those were loans, and, players like Seri have gone out on loan and stuff, they still have much of that £100 million squad. So, that squad surely is perfect for the Championship. And, players who disappointed in the Premier League, like Ryan Sessegnon, rumoured to be leaving the club. Whether he stays or not, we'll see. Deadline day is fast approaching. And so, I think that maybe, their form will reignite, because Sessegnon was certainly disappointing in the Premier League. So hopefully their form is going to be reignited under the leadership of Scott Parker. But, Neil Warnock's last season in football, he said he's going to retire at the end of this year. Whether we believe that for a second, I'm not sure. He said that 3 or 4 years ago, and he ended up spending another 3 or 4 years in the game. So I think if the appetite is there for him, if Cardiff have a good season, he could well stay on in football. But again, Fulham could well win the league. Cardiff could maybe sneak playoffs. Huddersfield, Jan Siver, his first proper full season in English football this season. We'll see how he adapts. It took Daniel Farke a couple of years to adapt to the English game at Norwich City, and last season when their Championship winning season, they were incredible, and German managers certainly do play some very, very exciting football. So, I reckon it might take a couple of years, but Huddersfield could well be back in the future, just not this season for me. But, Harry, who do you maybe view as an outsider to sneak into the playoffs and win promotion to the Premier League? We saw Sheffield United as the outsider from last season because nobody tipped them to really go all the way. But who do you reckon might just do it this season?
Well, I reckon a surprise team could be Brentford. And I'll tell you why I'm going to say Brentford. It wasn't long ago since I was watching them in League One against Peterborough United, okay? And I thought, they're all right. nothing special though. Yet here I am saying Brentford could get promoted into the Premier League. Now, you've got to remember this is their last season at their stadium, Griffin Park. They want to go out with a bang. You know, every team wants to leave their stadium with a special memory. And for Brentford, it could be playoffs. They've got Jensen from Celta Vigo in La Liga, and he's quite a decent player. And they've also signed, this is their main signing, Pontus Jansson from Leeds. And he's a well-established championship defender. He's experienced. Last season, obviously, didn't get the main aim of promotion, but he's experienced. He's solid. He was probably one of the best defenders in the championship last season. And so that kind of experience is going to be massive for them going into this push for playoffs, because I think that is what the fans will want. And I think that is probably what the board will want to go for as well. And they've also kept hold of Morpay, who is a decent striker also. So it could be an interesting one for Brentford. I think if they just keep it's about momentum. It's a longer season, 48 games, of course. It's just about consistency. You saw last season, it was like one trip up and you're out of the race, because Leeds, they had a great season, yet they still fell out of that automatic push. And it just shows the level of competition is going to be this season. You know, we spoke about how even a team like Cardiff could struggle with all the competition. You look at West Brom, Swansea, Leeds, all these teams. So the playoffs is certainly going to be tough. But I reckon Brentford, if they're lucky, if they're continually lucky, could sneak it. How about you?
Well, I do agree that Brentford probably are, the first season that Brentford were in the Championship after getting promoted from League One, Mark Warburton took them into the playoffs. So Mark Warburton has got experience of that playoff push and what it takes to manage a team to get that far in the league. And, well, where is Mark Warburton now, you say? Well, Mark Warburton is at QPR, replacing that fire-breathing dragon, Steve McLaren. So Mark Warburton knows what it takes to get to the top of the Championship. He's a very, very good manager. And I look at some of the signings that QPR have been making, and, I think that maybe, they may not necessarily have the best players on paper, but you get a right manager who installs the right values and way of playing at a club, and if the players can play that way, then you will see teams that you don't expect get into those top positions. Look at Bournemouth, look at Sheffield United. In this current day and age of football, you cannot bet on anything anymore. Anything can happen. And so, I think with Jordan Hugel, who signed for QPR the other day, leading the front, and with, although they've lost key players like Luke Freeman, I do think that come into the end of it, come to the thick of it, I think Jordan Hugel could well be a striker which takes them to the playoffs. And, maybe promotion, the playoffs are anybody's game, so we will certainly see for that. But, so we've talked about promotion, we've talked about outsiders. Harry, who do you maybe tip for relegation? Who's just not going to make the cut? Obviously, coming up from League One, we've seen Luton, Barnsley, and Charlton. Which of those three teams maybe do you just see not adapting? Now, obviously, I think the obvious one is obviously going to be Luton Town, because they've come up so quickly, rather than a team which has got promoted from League Two, had a couple of seasons in League One to consolidate, build a good team, and then got promoted, so they're better prepared for the Championship. Because they've taken the quick route, is it maybe too quick? And now, because they haven't got that budget of the Championship, they haven't got the strength in depth, is it maybe going to catch up with them this season? And are they maybe going to struggle?
It depends. Obviously, when you get promoted in rapid succession, you look at maybe Burton Albion. It can be a real struggle. But even they managed to survive a season. Or maybe now they've consolidated themselves, they could actually straight away have a strong Championship season, because they've come up when they're prepared. They've come up with some quality in the team. And I was reading the Sky preview earlier, and it was like a fan's perspective of how the season is going to go for each team. And the Luton Town fans were even saying they think they could push for playoffs. And I was thinking, wow, that'd be quite good. It would be great to see that, though, a team go from all the way from the fourth tier to the first tier so quickly. So, I don't know, Luton, again, is just going to be whether they feel they're going to be equipped, whether they feel it's going to be too much too fast. You've obviously got Barnsley, who have actually spent most of the recent years in the Championship anyway. and maybe they haven't got as much quality as they used to have. Not as much as back when they had John Stones in the team, but I think Barnsley, their experience, and when you get to a championship, experience is really what matters. And that's what you want, and so I think they'll probably be okay. As for Charlton Athletic, obviously they were breaking Sunderland hearts not long ago. Oh, I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me laugh a little bit. But I mean, I don't know a lot about their team, so I couldn't really comment. But again, they got through on playoffs only, scraped their way up, so might be quite a struggle because we look at the teams in there now. It's so competitive, and is coming up on playoffs, is coming up, scraping up, going to be enough? I'm not sure.
When I've seen kind of League One teams play the Championship, I think what's really been highlighted is the difference in quality. And whereas, at the top of the Championship into the lower half of the Premier League, there isn't necessarily much of a difference. I think if you look at the top of League One into the lower half of the Championship, there is one hell of a difference. The standard of player in the lower half of the Championship is still very, very good, and League One teams do often struggle when they come in. So we saw Rotherham 2 seasons ago get promoted. Last season they came straight back down. Although they've got a great manager at Rotherham, they just as a club couldn't match the financial investment that the clubs at the lower half of the Championship get. I mean, in terms of Barnsley, like you said, the Championship is where they should be. They've got a great manager in Daniel Stendel, and he plays a fantastic brand of football. They've got some fantastic players who really should be playing in the Championship anyway. You look at Kiefer Moore and Alex Mowat. Although they've lost their goalkeeper in Alex Davies, I think in terms of how they play and the way that Stendel sets them up, I think they'll be fine for Championship football. Luton Town, I don't think they're going to adapt well. I think it's all happened too quickly. I think realistically, it was momentum that took them up, and it can quickly tarnish when you have a big, heavy loss, which you can so easily do in the Championship. Last season, we saw West Brom beating Leeds 3-4-0. Heavy losses can often kill a team, and I think if Luton Town get a few of those early on, that could be it for them, and it could very well be damage limitation for the rest of the season for them. And in terms of, Charlton, only just, it seems, keeping hold of Lee Bower after the club announced he'd left and then a few hours later announced he'd signed a new contract. Very weird day in football that was. But, they've lost big players. I think Patrick Bauer is, their main centre-back, the player which sent them up to the Championship. Losing him to Preston, I think, could be big. And, they've still got players like Lyle Taylor, who, don't get me wrong, is a good striker. Whether he can adapt to the Championship, I mean, he is 28, 29. He's getting on a bit. Is it maybe too late for him to adapt to a higher league? We'll certainly see. They've got Johnny Williams back for a season. Whether that, could be the key man in midfield for him. He didn't do very well last time in the Championship with Sunderland, getting relegated with him. So I think Charlton maybe could be one that comes straight back down. They're a big club. They deserve to be in the Championship. But I just don't think, with their owner, Duchelet, and the fans unhappy with their owner, with the owner just not investing any money in the club, it could be a poor one for them this season. And so that's our Championship roundup. And let's do quickly a brief preview on Leagues 1 and 2 this season. Now, in terms of the teams that could go up, I think right up there has to be Peterborough United for the fact that they have been one of the biggest spenders in the league this season. Obviously, they sacked Steve Evans and brought back Darren Ferguson at the end of last season. Nearly got them into the playoffs, missing out by just a point only. But maybe that was the best thing for them because they've had a big re-evaluation in the summer and they have signed some very, very good players for League One. One of the best ones, obviously, being George Boyd, re-signing for the club, aiming to play more of a central role, where his physicality isn't necessarily needed as much because he's going to be playing with their second kind of defensive box-to-box midfielder, Alex Woodyard, who'll do the running for him. Maybe that just allows Boyd the space to create more things. Somehow, Peterborough have still got Marcus Maddison, the player which has been linked to Championship move and Top League One moves time and time and again. He's only got a £2.5 million release clause. He's had the most assists in England for the past 4 seasons, yet nobody seems to take a chance on him. They've got exciting players like Sariki Dembele. They've spent £1.5 million on Mo Issa up front. They've signed Christy Pym, Dan Butler from Newport, a great player. So Mark Beavers at the back, an incredible centre-back who's got past promotion experience from League One. Have Peterborough finally got the squad to go all the way into the Championship? We'll see. But then you've got the teams, of course, that you should expect to go up. You've got Sunderland, who, how they're still in that league is incredible. And make sure everyone checks out the Sunderland Till I Die second series, just because if you want something to watch and cheer you up on a rainy day, watch a Sunderland fan cry as Patrick Bauer stabs it in the net in the 94th minute. But obviously then you've got teams like Ipswich coming down from the Championship. You've got Rotherham. Teams which, often seem to bounce up and down. It's the first season in League One for Ipswich for, God knows, I don't even know how many years, but they've been a solid Championship club. But, one bad season and they find themselves dropping a division below. They've obviously signed James Norwood, who was the League Two player of the season and one of the best players in the EFL last year. Is he going to adapt to League One? Is he going to make the impact? Is he, he's getting older. Is he going to be able to immediately hit the ground running and keep his scoring momentum going? We will see. In terms of relegation, well, I think the two clubs you've got to immediately look at, and well, partly to blame because of the EFL, is the horrendous condition that Bolton and Bury are in. They start the season on minus 12 points. The EFL has let these owners corrupt the clubs. Bolton, I think, have only got 2 professionally contracted players. One of them is Ben Anek, a goalkeeper. And the other one, I think, is low in midfield. So their first game has had to be postponed because they literally cannot field a team. The players haven't been paid. The club staff haven't been paid. What's going on at Bolton is horrendous. Bury only just avoided a winding up petition yesterday, I think. So Bury start the season with players, but what on earth is going to happen to those clubs this season? I don't know. The fact they're starting on minus 12 points is going to be one hell of a tough survival, and we very well could see Bolton, a former Premier League team, drop all the way down into League Two. Bury, it wouldn't be so decisive and so divisive, but for Bolton, it could well spell the end for the club. Harry, what are your thoughts on League One this season?
Well, we'll start with Peterborough, as they're probably tipped by most to probably win or at least get automatic promotion from what I've seen. I think they have made some good signings. I think Isa, as much as the BBC ridiculed it on BBC Sport saying, "Oh, he only played 8 games, so he's going to be rubbish." He's had good pre-season. He's looking strong. Last season, I was so impressed by Ivan Toney. He's got so much to his game, more than scoring goals. He holds up the ball fantastically well. He gets to every header. He's a big man. He's going to score. He's going to get assists. He's going to lead the line. Big Ivan Toney. And I would love to see him go up. Of course I would, but there is a mentality at Peterborough which they are doomed with, which is inconsistency, which happens every single season where the fans think they're going to go up, but they don't because they just mess up over periods, and then they'll have a great run. They'll probably go unbeaten for like 13, 15 games, and then they'll lose and lose and lose. And it repeats every single season, and they'll fall just short of the playoffs or around that kind of position. But this season, it could be different. Obviously, they're not starting out with Steve Evans, which might mean that it's a little bit calmer at the club. And they've got Darren Ferguson, who, of course, has had success with them before. So I think he knows what he's doing. It looks like they're creating a bit of a project this season with the signings of like George Boyd on a free. I think that's a good one. I think that a lot of the fans are really excited to see him back, a bit of a club legend. And I would really like to see Peterborough. Do you know what? I think they will get top 6 minimum, but automatic could be a challenge. Sunderland, I think they will actually go up this time, and I'll tell you why. Because I think they've got to. And I said this last season, to be fair, but they really do have to now. This is the second season where we're watching Sunderland till I die, and I just think players like McGeady, he's not League One player, is he? He's easily a Championship player. So Sunderland have to go up. They have to show some fight. The fact they're not going to come first place, because the fact they didn't come first place last season, or even the season before that, is a joke. Sunderland should be winning the title easily without even trying. With the budget they have, with the network they have, they should be easily getting it. But again, they're going to struggle, and obviously, I really do think Bolton are going to struggle. It's a real shame because it wasn't even that long ago when they were a solid Premier League team. They were Sam Allardyce's manager. They were decent. Bolton were an okay team, but let's hope Peterborough get promoted.
Beautiful final words there. And so on to League Two. Obviously, the clubs you would expect to go up. Now League Two is a very interesting one because there are 4 promotion places up for grabs. So obviously, you would think the 4 teams that got relegated would have a chance. So you've got Scunthorpe, you've got Plymouth, you've got Walsall, you've got Bradford. I think the certain out of those to go up is Bradford. They've got a great manager in Gary Bowyer who has got promotion with Blackpool from League Two before. You've got Ryan Lowe at Plymouth who leaves Bury after guiding them to promotion. So he's got very recent experience of what it takes. I think Plymouth and Bradford could well be certain. But you've got you've got teams from last season who only just missed out on the playoffs. One of the biggest ones was probably Newport County, who just missed out on promotion in the playoff final. Because often a team which has a good FA Cup run often means their league position is sacrificed. But Newport County not only got far in the FA Cup, they got into the playoffs on the last couple of games, and they took it all the way to Wembley. And it was so unfortunate to see them go out and not take it all the way, because that would have been a fantastic season. But you've got other teams around them, like Forest Green Rovers, who have signed Matty Stevens from Peterborough, in fact, who is almost a ready goal scorer, who wasn't given his chance at Peterborough, but is a budding goal scorer that wants to get on the pitch, wants to play games, wants to score goals. You've got good defensive options like Liam Shepherd at the back. You've got overall a good solid squad, and obviously being Forest Green Rovers being a kind of club which has come from the conference in the last kind of couple of years and is really want to push him for promotion. Obviously Lincoln have got promoted out of League Two. Personally, I don't think they're going to do. I don't personally think they're going to light League One up Lincoln, but I think they could maybe push for playoffs, certainly mid-table for them, and maybe go on and push further on down the line. But back to League Two, I think Exeter maybe. They've lost Christy Pym, their good goalkeeper, but I think maybe they could still push without him. They've got some good attacking options. Obviously, last season they lost Stockley, which maybe would have harmed them in their race, but you've then got teams around them like Colchester, teams which are always there, always around the playoffs in League Two, which could be a surprise and could win promotion. But what a signing that would have been for Cambridge in League Two. So Harry, how do you see some teams in League Two going? How do you see teams like Leyton Orient, who obviously have sadly lost Justin Edinburgh due to a sudden illness, who sadly lost him in the summer? Do you think maybe them playing in his name, in his memory, could kind of take them up?
It could do. Obviously, it wasn't long ago since Leyton Orient were looking at being dissolved. Speaking of clubs being dissolved, and now here they are. They're back in the Football League, and I think playing under their name, playing under Justin Edinburgh's name, is going to inspire them somewhat. It happened with Leicester. I think a lot of the players felt they had a point to prove, obviously, with that tragedy, and that did pay off for them. But I don't know, it's going to be a tough season. Obviously, it's easier to get double promotion out of the conference and then out of League Two than it is to get out of League One in the Championship, for example. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I think Forest Green Rovers will get promoted. Matty Stevens is a great goal scorer. I reckon Forest Green would go. They were unfortunate last season because Tranmere I would say they were definitely the best team out of the playoff ones left. Norwood was on fire for them. So I think Tranmere definitely deserved to go up, and it was just unfortunate they had to face them in the semis. But Forest Green to go up this season.
Now, Harry, people may be thinking, well, you're talking about League Two, but you haven't mentioned one team yet. I'm going to say we haven't mentioned this team yet because we don't want to bang on about them all season, like we know Sky Sports are. And that's Salford City. Did you know they'd been promoted, Harry? I thought people had kept that quiet. The club which has literally bought themselves a Football League position in such a small amount of years. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to see the rise of football clubs, but I like to see the rise of football clubs like AFC Wimbledon rose through the ranks after MK Dons was horrendously formed. Starting from the bottom in a park and with hard work, dedicated fans and club staff working your way back up to the leagues. But Salford City, with David Beckham, Gary Neville, Philip Neville, Ryan Giggs, they've bought themselves a place in League Two. And now it seems they're trying to buy themselves League Two once again. How do you see their season doing?
Probably quite a good season, actually. I tell you why. Because money is the key to success, as a wise man once said. No, not education, not hard work, money. And that's why they're gonna they won't get promoted though. I'm just saying, right? You can record that clip and use it when they win the title. Okay, they're not getting promoted. I'm putting it out there because they have no experience of the Football League whatsoever. So it would be almost unheard of for a team like that to just blast right into League One. But I don't know. If they blast into League One, you can see one of the sheikhs taking over and then like investing all their oil money, and then what would you know? It'd be Plastic FC, wouldn't it? But yeah, I know what you mean. It is a shame to see teams that put in all the hard work left behind in terms of this is just a team built on money. This is just a team backed by some Man United legends. That's how they've got to their place. But at the same time, it is impressive what they've done, and they're probably going to have a steady season. League 2 isn't anywhere near as challenging as League 1, obviously, to get out of, but we'll see how it goes. I think they'll just be quite steady.
You know, I think they'll have a playoff push, but I don't know how some of their players are going to adapt. You know, I would say they'll have a playoff push. They might well get the playoffs. Whether they'll go up or not could be a completely different matter. I would hope they won't, to be honest, just to kind of show them that football isn't as easy just because you can buy the league. So we'll see how Salford City get on. But moving away from our thoughts on the EFL, let's talk and let's give you a roundup of some of the biggest transfers we think have happened this summer. So obviously the window opened as the season closed and as the Football Natter ended for last season with our end of season review. And, well, there have been some pretty big signings for clubs this season, not least of De Ligt going to Juventus. What do you think to that one?
For me, he's the second best centre-back in the world after Van Dijk. And I know that's really hasty because this is only his second... That was only his breakout season just now. But I'm talking about, at the moment, second best in the world after Van Dijk. And I know he didn't have the best opening game for Juventus. He scored an own goal, right? But it doesn't matter because he's still got such great quality. And in a team full of defensive legends like Leonardo Bonucci, Giorgio Chiellini, he's going to thrive. He's got the best to learn from. He's only going to go up. I think it will really consolidate his place as one of the best in the world. Not just, I'm talking about form, I'm talking about genuine overall skill. I think he's going to consolidate himself at Juventus. It's going to be a good season. He's going to be learning from the best. I think it was a good transfer. Was it the right move? Probably. I don't know. In terms of a learning perspective, yes, but I don't know. I was kind of surprised he didn't go to Barcelona.
I think obviously as somebody from England, I would have loved to have seen him come to the Premier League. Even if that was at Manchester United, I would have loved to have seen him in the Premier League. You know, because it is argued to be the toughest league in the world. I would have liked to have seen how that kind of developed. Maybe even at Liverpool, Van Dijk and De Ligt at the back. I don't think you could get better than that in the world. I think that would have to... I think, to be honest, the back line of Robertson, De Ligt, Van Dijk and Alexander-Arnold should be the team of the year, to be honest, because they are four incredible defenders, and I don't think Liverpool would actually concede a single goal. But he's gone to Juventus. You've got, like you said, you've got Bonucci, you've got Chiellini, you've got great players to learn from around you. I think he's going to develop well. I think he's going to win trophy. Obviously, the Serie A is guaranteed, and the Serie A Cup or whatever. But, you know, Juventus, Ronaldo said it last week that in the next 2 years, Juventus will win the Champions League. Could De Ligt take them to that this season? We'll certainly see. But sticking with the talk of Juventus, now, obviously, Sarri has taken over as manager, and it seems he's got his eyes on Lukaku. And who is he swapping Lukaku with? Paulo Dybala. So you're telling me that Sarri is going to get rid of Dybala to bring in Lukaku? Dybala is one of the most exciting talents in football. If he goes to Manchester United, it sounds like it's going to happen. He's going to light up the Premier League. He's going to be incredible, and actually, it's going to be fantastic to see a big player like Dybala come to the Premier League with Hazard just leaving. I think it's going to be great to see that. How he adapts, I don't know. Hazard took a couple of seasons. It could well take Dybala, but Dybala is very much in the form of his life. Harry, what do you make to these bizarre set of circumstances?
Well, earlier I actually watched an Italian football analyst discuss this transfer. He's also a fan of Juventus, by the way, so perfect insight. He said he just doesn't get it. He said it doesn't make sense at all. He said Dybala has been unsuccessful in the last season or two, and he said his first season at Juventus was brilliant, and he was massive for them. He scored lots. He was getting the ball in the perfect places, but he said the last season or two been a little bit off, and that's because he was being played by Allegri way too deep in the midfield, like central midfield position, and it wasn't successful for him, and he wasn't getting enough opportunities. And if you actually look, his scoring ratio is pretty similar to Lukaku's, and we all know how inconsistent that can be. So I don't know. It's a really weird transfer. It's Sarri, and he's going for a kind of sluggish player with a dodgy first touch. Does that really suit his style? I thought Sarri was the man who said N'Golo Kante didn't move the ball fast enough to play at CDM. You know, this is really confusing to me. The man does seem a little bit crazy, as Kalidou Koulibaly did vouch for. And Dybala to Man United, on the other hand, would just be brilliant for Man U. You know, I think he would fix a lot of the attacking problems, because let's not kid ourselves, a lot of Man U's problems have been going forward. You know, they've failed to be clinical, they've failed to make those electric attacks that they're so well known for historically. And I think he could solve a lot of those problems. He's a great player. He's still young, he's exciting, he's verging on world class at times. And so he is really exciting for them. I'd like to see it go through, simply because I'd rather have Dybala in the Premier League than Lukaku. But very bizarre circumstances indeed, yeah.
Now, well, this has actually just happened today as we are recording. Nicolas Pepe, the man who had no chance of going to Arsenal with their £45 million budget, but somehow that same budget is stretched to getting Dani Ceballos, Nicolas Pepe, Saliba, even though they've sent him back out on loan, a young, quick Brazilian talent, and somehow they've still got money to spend on possibly Kieran Tierney and another centre-back. I want to know where the money's come from, but what do you make of Nicolas Pepe going to Arsenal for £72 million? Do you think he's going to adapt well to the Premier League, or do you think he's going to be another French flop like Flamini?
Right, I might be wrong, but I can't see him being all too amazing. Yeah, he scored quite a few goals last season, but 8 or 9 of those were penalties, and he scored about 18 goals, okay, and about half of those were penalties. And also, remember, this is in Ligue 1, which is probably one of the worst of the top 5 European leagues. So, I don't know, I feel he's still good. He's a winger, remember, he's not a striker, and he might be decent for Arsenal, but I can't see him being massive for them. They've already got such a strong attack. They've got Aubameyang and Lacazette. They were doing a top 2, so obviously they must be looking to switch that into a front 3 of sorts. So that's interesting as well. A lot of money. The money doesn't really matter anymore. The fee doesn't really matter anymore because it's all crazy anyway. So I don't know. I think he'll be all right, but I don't think he's going to be amazing. Whereas his other French league member who has moved over to North London, Tanguy Ndombele, wow, that guy he's so good. I've watched him in pre-season every single game, and he is just perfect for Tottenham. I reckon he is going to be so effective for them this season. You know, he's silky smooth. He plays killer balls. He gets in the right places. He's strong. He passes the ball so well. And I was honestly surprised because I thought, again, I didn't really know if he'd be that good because a lot of his great moments were in Ligue 1, which is not a great league, but he seems to have already gelled with that team so well. So I actually think Tottenham have got the better side of the deal.
Do you know what? If Tottenham wanted a player to replace prime Moussa Dembele, Ndombele is the man for them. He is box to box, he's tough in midfield, he's not afraid to stick a foot in. And, you know, we talk about players in Ligue 1, but Ndombele just wasn't lighting up Ligue 1, he was lighting up European football, which shows the class of the player. I think when you've got, you know, Spurs have got are developing such a fantastic attacking force. Son, Mora, Kane, Dele Alli, Ericsson. What they need are a couple of players to just stick back and hold the line. Sissoko and Ndombele is almost that perfect physical presence that Tottenham have been crying out for to take themselves that one step further, whether that be to an FA Cup, even just a Carabao Cup, to take themselves to a trophy and push for the league all season, not just for the first half. And so I think Ndombele is going to be incredible for them. I think with these signings of intent that you see from Ndombele, obviously Spurs' new stadium, they want to have a great first proper full season at the stadium. I think they want to win something. And I think, if the way they keep going, I think easily they could win something. And so there are 3 or 4 big transfers that we really wanted to talk about and really wanted you to hear our thoughts on. And so, once again, we finish the episode, like we finish every episode, with some previews just to get your mouth watered for the season opener, which is tomorrow night, Friday night, or tonight, whenever you're watching it. It's Friday night, and it is Luton versus Middlesbrough. Luton obviously just coming up. Middlesbrough, with under the management of Woodgate, are going to want to go up, obviously replacing Tony Pulis. Let's do some quick fire predictions. You've listened to us long enough. You've listened to our thoughts. So let's give you a little favour. Let's do some quick fire predictions. So we'll start with Luton and Middlesbrough. I'm going to say Luton 0, Middlesbrough 3.
Luton 0, Middlesbrough 3.
We actually agree on something. That is a miracle. Right. Britt Sombalonga, I think, could be the man to fire them to promotion this season. Forest, West Brom. That's a tough one. Because Forest look good. Forest are one of those teams where they look good for most of the season. Then they drop out. West Brom are going to want to, they're under the management of Slaven Bilic. They're going to want to get promotion. This is the year, possibly for them. 2-1 West Brom for me.
Losing Rodriguez was a mistake. It's going to cost them, but not too much. 2-1 to West Brom.
Okay. Barnsley, Fulham. Obviously, Fulham are going to win the league. Barnsley just promoted. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Fulham.
Fulham are going to be explosive straight away. 4-0 to them.
Do you know what? I could see it with Cavallero legging it down the wing. Stoke versus QPR. Could be a mid-table clash come the end of the season. Could be two teams pushing for playoff places. Stoke have got a lot to prove under Nathan Jones after he left Luton last season. I think Stoke are going to win and scrape through 1-0.
Both are hungry. Both will want to take it one step further in mid-table. 2-2.
Okay, Bristol City Leeds. One of the biggest games of the first game week. Bristol City and Leeds both wanting promotion this season. It's almost do or die for them. Bristol City have put a lot of infrastructure. They've spent a lot of money on that. They want to show that they are proven and worthy of a Premier League place. Leeds exactly the same. They've been out for too long. This is the season for them under Bielsa. For me, though, it's going to be deadlock. First game for them, Bristol 2, Leeds 2.
Bristol have improved their position in each of the last 5 seasons. That's amazing. They're going to try and do it again, but Leeds, I don't think a team could be more frustrated if they tried, and they're going to be wanting to fire on all fronts. It's going to be close, but I'm going to go 1-0 to Leeds.
Okay, and Huddersfield Derby. Obviously, Philip Cocu taking over at Derby. That could be big for them. Can he get Jack Marriott firing straight away? For me, I think he will. And it's going to be 2-0 Derby away at the John Smith Stadium.
Such a good pre-season for Derby. They've been winning. They're adapting to Cocu's style. They're continuing the Frank Lampard project without Frank Lampard. Huddersfield, they've lost Billing. They've lost that physical midfield strength, but they've still got quality. It's going to be close, but Derby going to edge it 2-1.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you once again for joining us on the Football Natter. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of the 1920 season. We've got plenty more coming up for you in the next couple of weeks. And so, we hope you enjoyed. We hope you share this with all your friends. Email us at thefootballnatter@gmail.com. Check us out on the new Twitter at thefootballnatter. We hope to see you there. Let us know. Share your thoughts. Get in touch with us. Interact with us on social media in our interactive polls. Where do you think certain teams are going to come? Please let us know. We want to get more interactive with our fans, with our listeners. We want to get out there even more. But that leaves me to say thank you once again. We hope you tune in next week. Enjoy the first week of the football season. It's back, and now starts the 9-month fantastic life that all us football fans live. To end, it's goodbye from Harry,
Goodbye.
and it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.